terms of what's going to be announced, we're told 38 bills, a packed Queen's Speech, and one of those bills is going to be a public order bill providing jail sentences of up to 12 months for those people who are judged to be interfering with key national infrastructure. I think we all know which groups you're aiming that at.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You over the last couple of years, Julie, you will have seen that the current legislation has been struggling to deal with some of the protesters that we've seen, particularly Just Stop Oil and XR and some of their tactics, particularly this tactic of locking on, of gluing themselves to often dangerous bits of equipment, gantries full of fuel, all those kind of things. And so we're bringing in a suite of powers for the police to enable them to deal with locking on, making sure that people are penalised heavily for interfering with key national infrastructure, obstructing, obviously, motorways, which is incredibly dangerous things to do, and also key transport works, where that brings huge disruption and cost to the taxpayer. And then having what we call a serious disruption prevention order, which is an order that can be placed on those who persistently do this kind of thing, to make sure that we're able to target them as well. Look, we believe in the right to protest. We think it's absolutely fundamental, but it has to be balanced against the rest of us having rights to go about our business, and indeed them not endangering themselves and others, including police officers, by their actions.
I'm very supportive of this rule. There are lots of concerns still over the police sentencing and crime bill, though, where if a protest is judged a nuisance, then that can be closed down. This is very different. This is where people are stopped going about their daily business, key infrastructure being affected. That's an objective an objective opinion as opposed to a subjective opinion. That's where the law gets difficult.
Yeah, no, obviously, in protest situations, we do vest some discretion and judgment in the police about what they think is appropriate or not. And as you know, the police, even before the PSC bill, had the power to place conditions on protests, on processions, about where it goes and what time it would run, all the rest of it, respecting, as I say, the rights of others to go about their business. But in this situation, you're right. We've seen some awfully dangerous things going on. People gluing themselves, super gluing themselves to fuel depots and gantries, requiring the police to come and remove them.
Oh, I just leave them there.
So these are basically amendments that we tried to put through the PCSC bill, which were knocked out by the Lords. Okay. We're bringing them back. Hopefully it will make a difference.
I know we've got to... do you approve of this new law?
In many regards, I do, because it's important that people get to work and children get their lifts to school and people can make hospital appointments and that we can go about our lives doing the things that we enjoy. All of those are fundamental to our existence. And I also firmly believe in the right to protest and demonstrate, but there needs to be balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's happened with, like the groups you've mentioned, Extinction Rebellion and Insulate Britain and others. They've taken their disruptive behaviour to a different level where it's gone beyond making a point, which many people think is very valid and believe in their cause, but they take it to another level, which is included in the past, of course, parking a boat in the middle of Oxford Circus.
Yes, I remember that. And also in a shopping street when they were just trying to get back up to speed and opening up and being able to, make a living and pay taxes and employ people who also then pay taxes and have money to spend. I mean, there is a massive disruptive effect on this. And the view seems to always be, but we feel very strongly about this, therefore we can do it, and the government isn't listening. And this idea, and I hear it largely, I think, from younger people, this idea that, but if I feel strongly about this and the government isn't listening or you're not listening, I have the right to effectively force you to listen and force you to change your policy, as opposed to the idea that you educate, you inform, you leaflet, you run a campaign, you run for office, and you persuade people to your point of view, as opposed to bullying people.
Yes, I'm afraid there are far too many people for my liking who want to claim that they know their rights without accepting that those rights come with responsibilities. And those responsibilities include allowing people to go to work and go about their lawful business. The police did get caught short in some regards by people gluing themselves originally to roads and then, of course, concreting themselves onto vehicles and the like. And some of it was, frankly, reckless. And there's a part of this legislation that I'm sure is brought in to protect them from themselves as much as it is to enable us to go about our lawful business every day, which we should be entitled to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's this idea that because you feel strongly, I can't then get to work. And that is a seriously big issue. And this is something that, of course, the authorities always have to balance. And it's very difficult, police officers. Police got a lot of criticism, and I think quite rightly, for being very late on the scene when there were these protests and often standing around. I remember Waterloo Bridge at our older studios, seeing police, dancing with the protesters instead of clearing them off so people could get buses over this bridge. I mean, people getting to and from work.
Please, dancing and skateboarding with protesters are things that irritate me hugely, because I think it shows a lack of independence and impartiality. And we want our police to be independent, to police without fear or favour. And you don't actually have to be chummy with everybody. Sometimes you have to be stern, robust, and make sure that the policing job is done.
You can still be respectful and polite, but don't move along. Let me ask you, in terms of being respectful and polite, Beergate, Keir Starmer said he would resign if he was fined by Durham Police. A lot of people are saying on Twitter to me this morning, he knows he's not going to get a fine. Durham Police said they don't issue retrospective fines. They didn't issue a fine to Dominic Cummings over the notorious Barnard Castle situation, although we have seen Metropolitan Police investigating. Both these police forces, I think, dragged kicking and screaming into actually launching investigations. It's very difficult for police services, police officers, to get caught up in the politics of this, isn't it? Do you think the police have been unduly pressured over this? Do you think they will be saying, look, the leader of the opposition is going to have to resign, we shouldn't issue a fine, we should just slap him on the wrist? Do you think that is going to influence anything that they do?
I'm afraid it's becoming an ever more confusing landscape when it comes to policing and politics. The police for years have said that politics must be kept out of policing, and then they go and play politics themselves. The most clear example of that was then when the Met refused to reveal their Partygate findings because there was an election coming up. That's not policing without fear and favour. That's playing politics.